It's great. Thank you very, very much for joining us and for day two of a fantastic situation we've got going on here. Not only is this the time to have our business summit, but it's on the day following some big news in the industry. And so this is pretty newsworthy. And I got an opportunity here to talk with, in our roundtable, with three great sources of information, kind of how to read the tea leaves and what's going on, and maybe what some experts are doing, what they're doing as industry leaders as we go into these uncharted waters. So we really appreciate you hanging with us. Those that were with us yesterday, we had a great conversation at a higher level with the manufacturing part of our business. And now we're with the most important part, and that's the connection with the customers, the dealers. And that's the part that will deliver what's going to happen for the business. And, you know, you always got to remember in a case like this, with the tariffs, the OEMs are those that have the decisions to make. And they've got some tough decisions, and they're making them. Personally, I think the outcome is going to be better than what we might fear. When we don't want to have tariffs or the price increase, which nobody wants, you may tend to overstate what happens, but you don't think about the ways to overcome them. And now that's going to happen with the dealers. So the OEMs deal the cards. The dealers, we look at them, we play the cards best we can versus our other dealers. And so kind of like during COVID, the pandemic, in the beginning we were worried, and at the end we sold fewer cars and never made more money. I made a lot of friends. So I think that the learning opportunity through this is going to be through our dealers' eyes, and that's this panel. This is the road ahead for commercial vehicle dealerships. And we've got a great group of folks joining us around our roundtable here. And we've got the dealer bookends, as I call it. We have one of the best large group of dealers in the country, with the Hendrick Automotive Group. And Rene Hilaire, the Director of Fleet and Commercial, is joining us. And so those of you that are involved in a group, you'll hear from the best of the group. Then we also have Peter Spitzer, who's the Commercial Fleet Account Manager for Ron Pratt Ford in Dixon, California, a single point store, which is huge in commercial, and will give us a perspective from an individual contributor versus a group. And then between them, and to give us a counterpoint of what's going on with this situation, we've got Yalda Ghorashy. Yalda is the head of dealer digital programs for Stellantis, an OEM perspective. And that's going to give us a chance to talk not only about what's going on in the dealerships, but how we can do a better job of working together with our OEMs and connecting all the dots to be as effective as we can. And so I think that's a part of the, part of this that's going to be very valuable. We want your questions, suggestions, thoughts, or disagreements. There's a place there to put that in the chat as we go. We're here for our audience. We're here so you have value added for your time. Work Truck Solutions has a lot of resources available, and one of them is this kind of a roundtable where we can all talk about not only what we are doing, but maybe we can also share what we need from our partners like Work Truck Solutions to help us get through this, and how we can work as one. So I'd like to start with kind of the elephant in the room, the tariff situation that's going on. And maybe, Rene, we could begin with you to ask you just briefly how the tariff impact is seen from your company, and what kind of strategies or changes do you think you're going to make, and what do you think is going to happen with this whole tariff business that's going on? Rene,
I'm glad you started with an easy one, Jim. Thank you. So here's what we're talking about, and here's what we're strategizing on here at Hendrick. But and I'm sure it's the same for a lot of the people on today. But one of the things that we're considering, and we don't know how long the tariffs are going to last and what the true impact's going to be, but we know for sure that there's going to be an impact on steel and aluminum. So no matter what you think, how you slice it, we're going to be impacted, right? Both from the manufacturer standpoint on vehicles that are built and also on the upfitting side. But some of the things that we're looking at just early on in our strategy is we're starting to think that maybe when we look at our financing options for our customers, there might be a need now to maybe get a little heavier on the leasing side rather than the purchase side. So we're strategizing on how we can do that. For a long time, the fleet management companies, as we all know, 90% plus everything they do is leased. We don't do that well on the dealership side. So what we're looking at is how can we do better on that side. Another thing that we're considering is going to be extended life cycles for customers. If tariffs are going to increase prices, we're thinking that a lot of our fleet and commercial customers might be hanging on to those trucks a little bit longer. We always used to mock the old, I'll keep them till the wheels fall off. But, if we're going to inch closer to that, again, what strategies do we have in place with maintenance programs and how we can educate our customers on it's still not a good idea to roll the wheels off of those trucks and to get them back. And I think the way around that is total cost of ownership. We're going to have to get real educated in our industry on total cost of ownership, and more than just selling a truck to press plumbing, we're going to have to show Mr. Press the value of the looking at all the things that come in the total cost of ownership. So those are some of the things that we're concerned. And one last thing that we're talking about now is we don't do a lot with commercial used vehicles. We may have to start considering that strategy as well, because, if customers are hanging on to trucks longer, there's going to be a need for, or they don't want to buy the more expensive tariffed vehicle. We may have to shift our strategy a little bit to more of a used commercial vehicle approach. So those are the things that we're looking at.
Absolutely. You got the right attitude on that. I'm curious. In your stores, and you've got how many stores do you watch over?
We have the whole Hendrick family is 100 plus, but we have 30 stores that are our big time fleet and commercial.
Okay, 30 stores. So how do you handle F&I on the commercial side versus the retail side?
That depends really on the size of the store, Jim. Our biggest stores, our largest stores, have a dedicated F&I person that actually sits and works directly with the fleet and commercial team. Our smaller stores, I'll just say our mid-range stores, we have a dedicated person that sits with the rest of the producers, but we know, hey, we need to take this deal to Peter because he's the F&I person that handles fleet and commercial. Our smallest stores have the next up, whatever. So we have to train all of our F&I producers on fleet and commercial, more so in the smaller stores than we do in our mid to largest stores.
Your point about leasing is right on. Traditionally, the F&I, at least that I've seen, F&I penetration on commercial isn't as great as it is on retail.
It's not.
And that is a opportunity.
It's a huge opportunity. It has been and will continue to be, especially now with the concern on tariffs. So we're going to do a lot of education here on track leasing here in our company.
Yesterday we had Kirk Mann was on from Mitsubishi Financial. They do a lot of leasing of commercial vehicles, and we'll probably have to find some new sources of hanging commercial paper because some of the retail lenders may not be as familiar with the commercial business as we wish. That's one of our challenges.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So I thank you, and I like now I'll talk to Peter and see from a standpoint of a really good large single point store. Peter, how are you seeing the tariff impact, or how you think it will affect you and your business, your volume, profits, your strategies, and what kind of changes you think you're going to be making?
We're definitely concerned about it, but we're not afraid of it, right? There's always something, whether we're going through COVID, we're going through poor quality from the OEM. There's always something that we have to attack and address. But I think step one is addressing it with our customers, making sure that we're not turning a blind eye to it. We resonate with them, know that it's a problem, know that it's going to affect our commercial customers' businesses, right? That they're trying to operate as well, and that we're a partner with them. So just being eye to eye with them, level with them, and we're there for them just as always. We do it a little bit different than Hendrick when it comes to F&I. We run our commercial account managers as a one-stop shop. So they go from start cradle to grave with our deals, right? And we find, that we have extremely strong relationships between our commercial account managers and our customers in that respect. And just making sure that we're utilizing the OEM's programs to help them through this. So, Rene hit it with a lot of his strategies. They're very similar of what we're going to be focusing on as well. To add to that is really focusing on cost per mile tool, right? I think we need to really come back to that and focus on that with our customers. And having them lock in today's prices for maintenance and service contracts. And that's going to protect them in the future. If they're going to have to pay more for a vehicle today, how can we protect their dollars and make sure that they're going to be happier customers, and they're going to appreciate that. They're going to remember that, right? That we did that for them. And for the next 4, 5, 6 years, they're going to be protected and not have a large expense have to come out. But I think Rene's right. We're going to have to really focus on our fixed ops as well, because there's going to be a portion of people that are going to try to run their vehicles till the wheels fall off, right? They're going to keep repairing. But it'll be interesting because these tariffs are going to affect parts as well. So we'll have to see how it plays out.
Yeah, the first thought many people may have is MSRP is 80,000 at 25%, which isn't going to happen. That's not the way it's calculated. The tariff is on the value of the goods exchanged when it comes into the country. So it's usually some of it may hit 10%, probably around 3 or 5% real impact on pricing. It just depends on how it's passed on to the customer and the dealers. But you've got it. And it sounds to me, Peter, that you and Rene both are looking at this as kind of business as usual. And maybe what this will do is pull us into doing things for the future a little ahead of time. But the long-term plans that you have are the ones that will do the best, the customer satisfaction, growing the business. But I did.
Hey, Jim, let me add to what Peter said, because he made a very, very important point there. Products like maintenance and service contracts are going to become very important with tariffs, because here's what, and we all know this, fleet and commercial customers, the number one concern that they have other than safety is downtime. And if vehicles are going to cost them more, and they're going to want to hang on to them longer, and they're going to need to have some type of, plan, service, maintenance, so that they know that they can come in, they don't have to part with that expense. It's covered, and we can get that truck in, we can get it fixed and get them back on the road. I think we'd be wise as an industry of dealers to really be mindful of how this might impact downtime, because that's a huge concern for our buyers.
It's a good point, and it's also a system for your fixed operations where those commercial customers get treated differently than the retail customers do for that very reason. You combine the two, and they get both taken care of on
Sure.
part of it, as well as getting a quick turnaround.
Sure.
Yalda, I'll bet things are kind of crazy in Auburn Hills today. How do you kind of tell us where the OEM's thinking is right now? I know that's not finalized, and you may not be in a position to share everything, but kind of what's the mood there of how this is going to go down, the impact, the strategies, and some of the changes you think will occur. not only for the company, but in your area too, where digital marketing may become even more important in this environment.
Yeah, thank you, Jim. So obviously, the impact of the tariffs are still evolving, and there's a lot of conversations, as you stated accurately over here, considering mid and long-term, positions and strategies are still not finalized. And you can see some of the actions that we have taken alongside other OEMs. Strategies will continue to evolve. But what I loved is where you went in terms of with my position on digital. I am, I'm actually seeing parallels to a time where we had similar market challenges, namely around COVID, with with scarcity and with the supply chain disruptions that we were living through. We were forced to be creative, and our dealers were very resilient. So as I work on my side with digital and with dealers, I am absolutely amazed at our dealers to continue to learn from them. What I saw work really well during the COVID era is dealers that leverage digital to not shut down, but actually make it known to customers that they have really good websites, searchable content, very easy to find available inventory, make it easy for customers to click and call and engage with dealers, learn more about what's there, and also be always on and present when it comes to advertising instead of retracting. A lot of the things that Rene and Peter mentioned are also things that I've seen and learned along, in the past few years, where dealers actually leverage service to maintain the customer relationship. Both mentioned leasing. That's very interesting as well, especially because it helps bring back the customer at the end of the lease and helps us re-engage with the customer at that time. And we also saw quite a heavy focus on dealers leveraging certified pre-owned or used vehicles to make sure that customers are aware of inventory that's available to them, how they can help the customer finance those units through really good F&I packages and engage with the customer with excellent service. So I think we can come through this. I think we can apply some of the learnings and continue to evolve.
Yeah, well, that's the idea. I appreciate that. And then, during COVID, a lot of dealers began to move to a more of a digital process as a virtual processes. Earlier, Peter mentioned that the commercial customers don't come into the store any longer.
Yeah.
Do you find that at Stellantis that transition is occurring, and what are you doing to accelerate it?
Yeah, we have best practices, that we continue to reinforce with our dealers and provide them with options and choice. We have a dealer choice model when it comes to digital tools. And with that, we have the ability to see what's in market, how our dealers are utilizing products, and learn from them. And we audit our dealers, and we provide them with mystery shop results and help them learn and improve how they are presenting their inventory and how their content is visible to customers. So one of the things that, just for example, we are republishing and also have very close relationships with market leaders such as Cox Automotive, and making best practices available to dealers is something we're going to be focusing on. In times of scarcity, what I go back to is optimize your websites, make sure that you have a seamless and easy experience, allowing the customer to traverse through your site, find content easily, and contact the dealership. There's a lot of opportunities for us to continue improving the in-store process. When the records are transmitted to the dealer, how is the customer contacted? How is the customer, invited to come to the store? The first quality response and the engagement with the customer remains very important. So the website and the process show relevant content and vehicle. In the world of commercial, I am really impressed with what Work Truck Solutions is offering our dealers with searchable content, that is allowing the commercial buyer to find, upfits and search by vocation. That's very strong, very interesting, helping those customers find inventory, having dealer trade available, and then also not retracting from advertising. That's something that we lived through where there is scarcity and budget constraints. Oftentimes you have some concerns about expenditures and tendency to retract from advertising.
Sure.
And that becomes more difficult for dealers that do that in engaging with customers, because really once you touch the right customer, you have the ability to keep them with service, with certified pre-owned, with used, and engaging with the customer for the long term.
No, that's true. That's really well put. And I guess we'll see exactly how this turns out, but the digital avenue may get more important as we go forward. Peter, I wonder if I could ask you a question. Now that we've sort of talked a little bit about the situation with the tariffs and prices, and obviously there's countermeasures you're taking at this point. Maybe we can look a little bit beyond that. At some point, the tariff situation is going to kind of be built in, unlike the COVID, which we came and went. Either it goes away through negotiations, or it goes away because we get used to it, or whatever it is. Probably going to have some disruptions in our supply chain, so availability may become an issue. But it's okay. This year we've had a lower demand and higher inventory than what we've been used to in the last couple of years. That's not helped us. But as we go forward, after this situation, and as you see the commercial business opportunities going forward, do you see growth of sales and profit in commercial that you still have ahead of you? And how do you think we should see the market in the future for commercial versus what it's been in the last couple of years?
Yeah, I mean, what a great question. And kind of bouncing off what Yalda was talking about too. I think when we're entering times like this, you're going to have winners and losers created, right? Mm-hmm. And I think everyone attending this summit today and dedicating time, you guys are already putting in the time to be winners, right? And dedicating that. So what are you going to do about it today, this week, this month? How are you going to set yourself apart, right? So each individual dealer has the ability to make themselves a winner or a loser. It's up to you. So, and the digital forefront is a huge, huge piece of that. You need to make it easy to do business with your dealership, right? If you're not merchandising properly, if you don't have pictures of your bodies on your website with your trucks, with the correct prices, with the correct incentives, with the correct equipment, mm-hmm. you are making it difficult to do business with you. Mm-hmm. So whether the industry, right? I don't know where the industry is headed for commercial, but whether it's going up or it's going down or it's going to stay similar, each individual dealership has the power and the choice to choose how easy it is to do business with you, mm-hmm. right? So, and Work Truck Solutions is a huge, competitive advantage mm-hmm. in that area, being able to have your inventory on display like never seen before for commercial trucks. And no, I was not paid to say that. I use them, we've used them for years and years and years, and it's truly exploded our commercial business because it puts it in the eyes of more of a retail themed environment, right? Mm-hmm. And that's where consumers want it to be easy. They want to be able to click and point online, be able to fill out a credit app online, not have to talk to anybody, and they can get a payment right in front of them on the car with all the information about it. And we're doing the same thing in the commercial space. So I think it's really how you separate your store, the why buys for your specific dealership, why you should buy from this Ford dealer and not that Ford dealer down the street, why you should buy from this Stellantis store and not the Stellantis store down the street, or vice versa between OEMs, right? At the end of the day, it's your relationship with the customer and how easy it is to do business. And then it goes all the way to fixed ops, like we were chatting about a little bit before before we went live. It's so important because the old saying, you gain most of your customers in sales and you lose most of them in service. How do we flip the script on that? How do you gain customers in service as well? Because like we said, if customers are going to be hanging on their vehicles for longer, we're going to have RO volume increasing, possibly sales decreasing. We don't know that for sure. We don't know how long these tariffs are going to go on. We don't know consumer sentiment, a lot of things, but what do we have control over? Right?
Yeah.
That's what we're focusing on at our store. So how can we get, I always say to my staff, to my managers, how can we get our unfair share?
I love it.
Whether the market's going down or up, how do we get our unfair share of it? And how do we focus on that every single day?
And this makes the opportunity, the market change like this to do just that.
Yeah.
You talked a little bit about your F&I process. I'm just curious, is your experience by leaving the commercial directors involved in the whole transaction, is that increased penetration of F&I, and does it change the F&I per unit production?
I believe if we had a dedicated F&I, or we made every single commercial sale go through a traditional F&I office, I believe our penetration would be slightly higher. I do. But I believe there's a give and a take with that. And I think Rene can see the same. He has his mid-range stores and also his, I'm sure, massive commercial stores. And it's all about efficiency and then also relationship with those customers. So by having that single point, I think it builds a lot of trust, and the customer knows what to expect next. When you throw a customer and you require them to come into the dealership without making everything easy, like we just talked about, and they have to go through the box, right?
Yeah.
To go meet the butcher, as we say, it throws them off guard. I think we lose a little bit of trust with that with certain commercial clients, but when they're dealing with the same face, the same person all the way through the process, we might lose a little bit of penetration. You're spot on with that. But I think the trust that we gain and the additional business that we gain surpasses.
Yeah. So you're looking beyond just the transaction, you're looking at the relationship.
Correct.
And that's the difference.
And everyone might do it different, right? There's different recipes out there that work. So
That's true. So Rene,
I'm sorry, Joe. I just want to chime in on
back
that
to you.
because that is really an important point. And I want to clarify that too. We know that probably 90% of our fleet customers will never come in the store. A good portion of our commercial customers will never come into the store. So we've had to improvise. And the way we do that is we let our sales consultants, our sales professionals, walk through the products, the telematics and the gas cards and the service contracts. And they do a good job of setting that up. And then the way we do it is we say, okay, your deal has to be contracted. So I have to let Peter handle that piece. So Peter's going to reach out to you. And what Peter will do as our producer, he'll look at here's the thing. A lot of times people think you get 1, 2, or 3 passes on the retail side to sell F&I product. In commercial, you have one. So you got to take your best shot. So you look at the right telematics package, you look at the right fuel card option, and then you look at the right service contract after you've done a little bit of profiling. And when you call the customer, you lay that out in a single approach, single package. And we found that we were very successful in doing that, and our PRU on the back end really, really increased.
Oh, that's interesting.
Hey, Rene, are you guys able to get your customers in an environment like we're on right now, like virtually? Is it by phone or by Zoom or a combination of the two?
Some we do less and less video now. Most of it's done by call. And the cool thing is, and we go back to this, but I hate to keep harping this point. We learned a lot from COVID, and what we learned from COVID is we can do business virtually. We can do business remotely with customers. And so we're using those same best practices that we built during COVID, and we're applying those on our side now, fleet and commercial. I think we were the biggest benefactor. Sounds terrible to say that. Biggest benefactor from COVID was the fleet and commercial side, because we knew that there was a way we could do this virtually and by phone, because I think, Peter, you and I were talking about this before the call today. It's all about convenience. If somebody's out on the job site, they're not going to stop and come in and buy those 3 or 4 trucks. We have to go to them, or we have to find a way to, and you can't bring in the sales team and then the F&I, and you're taking 6 people out of the store. So most of our F&I is done by phone, some by virtual, but we've been very effective doing that.
And to add on to what you just said of them being on the work side and not wanting to come to the store, it's amazing how a customer, so they're going to get calls from multiple stores, right? If they're putting in an inquiry online somewhere, whether it's a third party or onto websites or calls, they're getting quotes on these vehicles from multiple dealerships. One dealership might be priced here and another one might be priced here, but this one that's pricing higher at a premium, they might have more value because they're offering to do all of these things remotely. This store that's cheaper, you have to come into the store. You have to come here. Guess what? Their time is money. If they see the value of the red carpet treatment, we call it the laying out the red carpet, right? And the white glove treatment, and doing all of those things for the customer, making it easy virtually, they'll pay more money. You will make more money and get more front end gross, build trust, and like what Rene's talking about, be able to sell more back end.
Yes, so Rene, that you guys and Peter, you're right on the right track, obviously. Rene, how do you see the difference going forward in commercial if you take this to the next step, which is taking care of their mobility needs, not their commercial vehicle needs? What are you doing with your organization or processes or fixed operations to become more of a mobility provider?
Well, in this day and age when everybody's going to mobile service, we took a very crawl, walk, run approach. And embarrassingly, we're not where we need to be on that, but we're getting there. But the first thing we needed to do, and this was very important, the problem with our industry, Jim, as you know, on the fleet and commercial side is there's not a lot of ROI that comes out of that because we can't track everything. Right. Everything gets rolled into retail. And so, you call a commercial manager, hey, how'd you do this month? Well, he knows he sold 25 trucks, but he's guessing at gross. So we had to address that first here. And one of the things that we did is I wanted to be able to measure what we're doing on the fleet and commercial side in fixed operations. And because of the way we were functioning rolling out our commercial, our department, is everything was going in under the same dispatch, which created some problems with customers that were promising that they're getting priority service. But then you see a truck out there with Joe's Plumbing sitting on the lot or behind the building for 3 or 4 days before it even gets looked at, because it's just part of this regular dispatch. So we addressed our dispatch system. Then we addressed our way that we could track how much fleet and commercial revenue we were actually driving into our fixed operations. So we actually developed fleet and commercial ops codes. So now I know that everything that comes in the shop, we know that this customer, when we talk about what's the value of this customer, we're measuring both on the retail and the fixed op side. Once I was able to show our company, look how much money we're driving into the shop, then we could say, okay, now we got to take it beyond that. And now we're starting to build our mobile service department. What we're doing too, which I think is a really cool idea, we're not only doing the maintenance mobile service, we're also doing detail, because we found that a lot of the fleet customers park their vehicles, and before they hit the road in the morning, they want those things clean. So we're working out a strategy where we can, whether it's once a week or whether it's a couple times a week, we go to the fleet or we go to wherever the commercial customer is, and we're detailing all of their vehicles and making them look ready for, images a lot in our industry, and a lot of our buyers are very, very interested in not just the maintenance but the digital. So that's how we're growing our opportunity.
And it's in fixed, which is obviously the annuity that comes. Have you, for both you and Peter, does the mobile service provide a similar level of gross per RO hour?
No, but you can't look at it that way. You can't measure them side by side. What's making you more money in the fixed ops world? You have to look at it as a why buy, just like I was saying before. How do you gain customers in service as well? They say you gain most of your customers in sales and lose most in service. How do you gain some from service? This is the way you do it. This is how you wow the customer. When it comes to our NPS scores, which we track extremely closely, we separate our mobile and our shop. Our NPS scores in our shop hover right around 80 to 82, which is pretty good for service. And then, but for mobile, it's over 95. It's insanely high for mobile. So you have to look at it from that aspect. I like to use the analogy of a hospital, right? So you have your heart surgeons, and then you just have your regular guys that they draw blood, they give immunizations, they give shots, things like that. When you bring a vehicle in to the shop, you have somebody that can replace an engine, replace transmission, do heavy duty work, right? Why would you have them do lower level work? Why would you have them do a recall? Why would you have them do an oil change with that? It's a complete and utter waste of time. You're paying that guy so much more per hour when he could be doing other work. He could be doing another heart surgery, brain surgery, right? And the looking at it at the analogy of a hospital, mobile allows you to send those out, get the recalls done, get the oil changes done. It moves that work out of your shop, the light work, and it leaves your shop to do the heavy duty work, which it frees up time and they can be more efficient, right? We've seen our techs proficiency, our transmission techs, our engine techs, our master techs go way up since we've introduced our mobility department, which we have 7 vans. We did over 700 experiences last month. And that's just a way to wow the customer. And that's when you're selling a commercial customer, even for our commercial account managers, that's a huge why buy. We explain our massive wholesaling parts operation. We tell them about our fleet service operation, and then our mobility department of how we go to you, and uptime is crucial, right? You talked about having the plumbing van sitting out back for 4 days without getting looked at. That's a big deal. You could have just lost a customer for life and gotten a bad review on Google, Yelp, on everything, right? But in this case, you can go to them and you can have, supply a better uptime for them.
That's incredible. 700. How does that compare to your retail shop ROs?
Our retail shop ROs are about 1,500 per month, and that includes our 2 quick lanes, our retail and commercial. But just for commercial, we're probably sitting at about 500 to 600 ROs for our commercial department.
Oh man!
And I'd say our mobile service is mainly commercial driven, but you guys started bringing up other items that you can, types of work that you can complete with mobile. I mean, it's endless. It's amazing. We started doing windshields, right? You're doing windshield replacements and repairs. We're doing catalytic converter etching and charging for that as well, which has become very popular. There's so many things that you can do in that mobile van to add, ROI.
Part of the problem with that too, and this is something that one of our stores came up with this idea, and now it's a best practice for our company. But the smaller stores don't have a lot of bays, right? So if you have a couple of trucks in and the lifts are occupied and you're doing an engine replace, so some of our stores now, what they're doing is they're using the mobile service van to do maintenance work outside of our shop, and for leaving the bays and the lifts for the heavier work stuff. So to Peter's point, you can get very creative there and really help yourself. So
and those vans cost a lot less than an acre of land.
Yes, sir. That's right. That's right.
Especially in California. That's for sure.
Right.
Yalda, a question for you as we're talking now about the annuity of fixed and commercial. What are you seeing in terms of marketing commercial digitally or marketing to our customers for expanding the opportunity? I don't know, but I guarantee you a small percentage of the total commercial fixed gross is going through our dealerships.
Yes,
You know about that?
So that is an area that we actually have a lot of opportunity to grow and learn. And that's something that I'm very intrigued about learning from Rene and Peter and dealers in general. What are the best practices that they're seeing? I can share some of the best practices that we see more in retail, but when it comes to commercial, I think there's a lot more that we could do. When it comes to retail, what we are seeing work quite well is the newer types of targeting is using first-party data and targeting your known customers and returning customers is really leveraging the data to go further VIN specific. And the more information is available, the better conversion you're seeing. So in the world of commercial, I am very intrigued on seeing how best to target the customers. If you have the ability to append the upfit or be able to find the customer who's looking for a specific, a work truck, but perhaps if that's not in stock, being able to basically connect with the customer and through dealer trade find that truck. That's the type of thing that I'd be curious to know how Rene and Peter address, because what I have seen on retail is when there is scarcity, those tactics work well. Another thing that I've seen actually work well, which is a little bit outside of advertising, but it is advertising to customers that we buy your vehicle. So when there is scarcity, there is an availability. I've seen dealers use that strategy very successfully in advertising to customers that we buy your cars, we need your cars, because they are focusing on certified pre-owned and used. They are trying to get the customers in the door with that tactic, and they are using dealer trade for basically selling a car to the customer in the end and maintaining their relationship with the customer.
That's probably the best value you're going to get bringing a used car into your lot is to buy it from somebody. I'm not kind of out of left field, but since you're here as an expert of interest, what is your take on the Amazon auto purchase process? Do you think it's not done much at Hyundai at this point? Now they're looking at used, but how do you see that? And is it going to affect our dealers in the future?
I don't think it works without dealer participation. And they have actually been trying to define a process to make it work. And the only way they have been able to launch a pilot, albeit a very small pilot, is by engaging dealers. And I think there's still growth there. I am hearing about how that pilot is proceeding. Amazon has a lot of data on customers. Every time a customer is on Amazon and is searching for a part, they already know what's in your garage. So with that, talk about first-party data, they have the ability to recognize the customer and offer them information. But their solution is not going to work without dealer participation and without dealers being able to work on the transaction with the customer. They can have a lot of data, which they do, and help the customer find inventory, but ultimately it requires dealer participation. Interesting.
Thank you. That's a good point. Peter, I got a question for you as we develop this understanding of our strategy going forward. Do you have a method of identifying the profit contribution of commercial and fleet as a profit center, or do you look at it that way, or is it in your mind just part of the total?
I'm sorry, I had someone talk over the intercom there when you were asking your question. What was the last part? I apologize.
Well, no, I just do you have a way of identifying financially the profit center contribution of fleet and commercial separate from the rest of the store, or is it just part of the total? I know Ford has tried in the past to break it out.
Yeah, yeah. So we do separate it. I hope to dive into it a little bit deeper, but Ford has added to their financial statements actually separate pages for commercial business. They have a separate page for mobility and a separate page for commercial service and sales. We have put in our comments to get a little more granular and detailed with it. And you guys brought up the used commercial space, used vehicles, which I think is untapped. I mean, a lot of the enterprises of the world and the Hertz and these other rental companies, they kind of own that space. But I say, why can't dealers have a piece of that as well? And that's a piece of the financial statement actually that I suggested that we add to it, because it didn't display it very, very clearly there. So we're getting there, and a lot of it is separated, but allocating its own expenses, its own department, its own part of the business is extremely important, because there are different, it's a different beast. There's different strategies. There's different percentages and KPIs, different percentage of gross that you have to look at compared to retail. If it's all mashed in, I don't believe you can make sound decisions, because you can't make sense of it one way or another.
You're right. That's I know, Rene, you've made that point.
Yeah, that's I mean, Peter is spot on. I'm still working on that, but my number one objective here, and we're ever so close, is to be able to measure the same KPIs we're pulling from our retail, we're going to get on our commercial side as well. Cost of sales, net to sales, all of that, because this is the dirty little secret that nobody wants anybody to know. I'm going to give it right now. So hopefully everybody's listening. Fleet and commercial is a huge profit center. And when you can show that, to management, you're going to find that you will be part of the conversation and you'll have a seat at the table at the dealership. I promise you that.
You're right. It reminds me of 20 years ago when F&I was not accounted for as a profit center, and it was just part of page 3.
That's right.
And so, shifting gears a little bit, Rene, given this understanding of what we have to as an opportunity for commercial, and I'm convinced that commercial is going to be like F&I in a couple of years as a significant piece of the business of a dealership, separate from being mixed in with everything else. So what do you need from the suppliers, from your business partners? How can the business partners you work with, the CRM, the Work Truck Solutions, the Cox suite of or whatever that you use for your different services, how can they be part of your solutions? And do you have both from what they should offer? One of my impressions is as a dealer, I'd rather have fewer suppliers that do more and can take a larger share of business off. And then second, the relationship. How do you communicate with them, or how can we improve the communications so we can provide you feedback to help improve your own operation?
So that's a great question. So first of all, when you say what do we need from the manufacturers, this always goes back to Jim, even when you were at your very first OEM, this has not changed, but you need to have clear and open and transparent communication. What we find is sometimes, and it's not on purpose. If you think about, and I think we were talking about this with Peter just before the call today, but even within the dealership level, right? You have so many different people doing different jobs, and sometimes there's just a problem of bringing it all together and communicating, whether it's a program or whether it's a product launch, or sometimes you think, wow, didn't know this was coming, or wish I would have been able to be better prepared for that. And man, had my OEM told me a little bit more about this, I might have been more prepared. That's number one, I think, from transparent. Number two, I think specialization. And I'll just tell you that we deal with every OEM here except one, and I won't tell Peter which one that we don't have here, but anyway, we deal with all of them. So every single, and this is one thing that I find on the fleet and commercial side, and I think GM tried this for a while, and I know Stellantis tried it, and I think they're coming back around, but fleet and commercial is literally two different programs. And for years, the OEMs tried to, meld it into one. Fleet and commercial is not one. The commercial side, customer, everything, transaction, everything from A to Z is handled different than it is on the fleet side. So what I find is that works best for an OEM is when you have a commercial DM and you have a fleet account executive, people who are very specialized in what they do, because what you'll find is when you're asking for help and support from the OEM, if someone's strong on commercial, you get great support. If they don't know much about fleet, you get a little bit lacking, and vice versa. They know a lot about fleet, not so much about commercial. So I would think more specialized approach from the OEMs on, our commercial and fleet. And then finally, and this is on us as dealers, it never ceases to amaze me, and we're all busy. But when I hear that there's an OEM at a truck club meeting or at a sales meeting or we're doing a go-to-market meeting, be present. You got to be there. I mean, I hear a lot of my cohorts, dealership folks say, hey, the manufacturer, they don't communicate. Well, I went to 4 meetings and didn't see you at a single one of those. So, not for lack of trying, the OEMs are trying to give us that information. We need to be present to hear it. So I think that falls on the dealership. That'll also help strengthen the partnership. Anytime you have a strong partnership between the OEM and the dealership, it's a good thing for us and the industry.
And the customers. That's who wins ultimately.
Exactly.
Peter, how about from your perspective? How can we help support you, get aligned with the needs you have, be more efficient of your time, and give you the kind of efficiency processes and tools that you need, like CRM, to help you for the future?
Sure. I think CRM is, you brought that one up just kind of last minute there, but that's a huge one. I mean, a commercial CRM that is efficient and works similar to a retail CRM, it does not exist. And if anybody knows of one, I'm all ears. I'd love to hear a commercial vehicle CRM. I'm sure Rene would love it as well. But you go to sell vehicles inside of a retail CRM, and Rene hit it too. He said there's a big difference between commercial and fleet. It's really 3 different pieces of the business. It is. You have your commercial retail, which are your small to medium-sized businesses, your retail customer, and then you have your large fleet over here, which a lot of these fleet leasing companies have a chokehold on. But I know Ford has invested a ton of resources, and Rene was bringing up gas cards and telematics, and Ford is in the same boat. They're really investing in giving us the tools in order to compete with these fleet leasing companies. And that's where I think our biggest area of opportunity is. I think we do a pretty good job with the commercial retail space and with the relationships between the customers that we have and our commercial account managers. But those large fleets need a different kind of attention and presentation. They have such large scale businesses that they need so much preparation and information in order to make a big change to come do business with us. And that, I believe, is where the OEM needs to come in. Ford has done a pretty good job of that. But they do need to make sure that they're very involved with us and they attend those meetings with customers with us, because they're the experts when it comes to their programs, when it comes to their commercial lines of credit, their track leases. Having someone from Ford Credit there with us is just huge and adds a whole nother level of trust and investment that we're, showing the customer that they're their time and money matters. So Ford has done a good job of kind of separating their reps, for one for telematics, one for Ford Credit, specifically for, they call it Fin Simple now, but specifically for that commercial Ford Credit aspect, which they're separating the business too, right? So I think having those product knowledge experts to back us up in these meetings, and a lot of them are done like this virtually, right? They're not coming to the store. We're doing virtual meetings with these large companies in order to close the deal.
And you do a lot of these virtual meetings, I guess.
We do quite a few. I try to do them in person because that's always best.
Yeah. Do you have
human to human interaction?
And as we get into AI and some of those enhanced systems, it's going to become even more important. So Yalda,
I'd like to comment on the CRM.
That's a whole nother webinar.
I want to ask you, we'll have Yalda close us out on AI because she's the expert on it. She knows AI inside and out. But yeah, go ahead, Rene.
Just real quickly, I want to chime in on what Peter said. I think if you were to get a room full of dealers, commercial guys, and say, what's the number one thing we're lacking in our industry? It's a usable CRM system. If we're going, I don't know who's listening on this call, but somebody wants to make $1 billion, and I know that Catherine's working on this. I think Catherine and we met with Catherine when we were in Indianapolis about this. And here's what I will tell you. Bottom line is, you got to blow up everything you've ever seen on a CRM. Just start fresh, because what we have is retail CRMs that people try to convert to commercial, and they're just not very efficient. They don't work. So start from scratch. And lastly, start with the salesperson in mind. That's the most important thing about a CRM, the people who use it daily.
And the fact that they need to use it because they want to.
Yes, sir.
And
yes,
they
sir.
use it the right way instead of they're made to, and they're doing it halfway.
Yes, sir.
Yalda, we've got about a minute to go, and I'd love to hear your take on where we are with AI. What's coming?
Before I get onto AI, I want to comment really quickly on the CRM comment that both Rene and Peter made. And I agree. If you know of a great commercial CRM, please call me, email me. It is top of the agenda for us, and we are looking at that. And I agree with the comments that it needs to be specialized for that line of business, because otherwise it doesn't work. So really quickly on AI, I do believe that requires its own dedicated time. But at a high level, what I can tell you is that is the topic du jour. All technology providers offer some sort of, automation and animation, and there are more bad ones than good ones that exist. And it's easier to lose a customer by providing the wrong response to the customer because it's automated and AI than it is to just check the box that you're utilizing AI. AI is still evolving, and I think there are some really cool products in market and can help the customer experience, just ushering the customer through the journey all the way to dealers. But I really think that requires a more dedicated conversation.
It does, Yalda, but you did a perfect job of setting us up for our next subject.
Fantastic.
You've got it. And this has been a great opportunity for us to bring experts together at a time we need it. I hope the audience has appreciated the candor and the input. And I know I've got a list of things I'm going to go back and do a lot differently. The real takeaway here is that this tariff situation is short term. Do the good long-term stuff, and you're going to be okay, whatever happens through this or that. And as we mentioned, you're competing against the other dealers that have the same hand. And so that's your challenge, is to use this to move ahead, and as well as the OEM. So I thank you all very much for your time. The three of you have been phenomenal.